Let's bring in Fox News contributors Karl Rove and Andy McCarthy. Karl, let me start with you. I want you to listen to President Biden, who you might remember as a candidate said this.
President Roosevelt clearly had the right to send to the United States Senate and the United States Congress a proposal to pack the court. It was totally within his right to do that. He violated no law. He was legalistically absolutely correct. But it was a bonehead idea.
So that's how he used to think, Karl. And then as a candidate, you remember, he dodged answering the question about court packing for a long time, finally at a debate, basically said no, and then said he was going to do this commission. But now we know, like, this is actually a real idea put forward by the Democrats. Is it possible that it could pass?
Well, it is possible. They'd have to blow up the filibuster in the Senate, but Senator Biden was accurate. This is a boneheaded idea. This will be seen as a pure power grab. Remember, Franklin Roosevelt in 1937 was at the height of his popularity, and then he tried to pack the court. And what happened in the next election? In the next election, the election of 1938, the Democrats lost 72 seats in the U.S. House of Representatives and 8 seats in the Senate. And so my point is that, think about it, every Senate Democrat candidate, whether it's an incumbent in one of the 4 states where they've got real problems, or in the open or tight Republican seats, is now going to be asked, do you agree with packing the court? And for them, there's no good answer. If they say yes, they're going to upset the independents and rile up the Republicans. And if they say no, I'm not in favor of it, it's going to dispirit some of the people on the left wing of the Democratic Party.
I'm wondering, Karl, why have a commission if you've already made up your minds? The Democrats already say, look, we want to pack the courts. Why do you have a commission, one? And two, as you say, if the odds of this passing are very slim, what's the goal here?
Well, if the commission exists for one of 2 reasons, and we don't know. Is it to sort of kill this idea, or to give a foundation of, quote, expertise behind it? I would say this. I'm dubious about this commission. First of all, it's headed by 2 co-chairs, one of whom signed an inflammatory letter calling for the defeat of Justice Kavanaugh, and the other of whom has been the Democratic National Committee General Counsel twice, General Counsel for the Obama campaign twice, and played the role of Donald Trump in Joe Biden's presidential debate prep. Not only that, but over the weekend, I had too much time, so I got online and checked out the 32 members of the commission on open secrets, 28 Democrats and 4 conservatives and libertarians. There are 16 Democratic commissioners who in the 2000 and 2020 election cycles gave 110 political contributions, totaling over $112,000 to Democrats. There are 2 conservative commissioners who each gave during those 4 years 1 gift each, one to a Republican in a primary in a New Mexico congressional district, and another one who gave a contribution to a Libertarian for a total of $4,200. Is this a balanced commission? I don't think so. It's got 28 Democrats and 4 Republicans, and the Democrats are a bunch of campaign contribution given activists.
Andy, you wrote in the Hill newspaper, the headline is Biden's court-packing theater could tame the Supreme Court's conservatives, and you go on to say that the court-packing threat failed only as an ambitious artifice to alter the makeup of the judiciary. It succeeded in intimidating the Supreme Court into a retreat from its protection of economic liberty against progressive aspirations to regulate American industry. And what now?
Well, yeah, I think, Dana, I agree with Karl about the congressional politics of all this, but there's a seamy side to this history that we have to take into account. The court packing plan by FDR looked at just as legislation and a rebuke of the president was a spectacular flop. But in terms of what its bottom line was, it actually managed to intimidate the Supreme Court into changing its jurisprudence, and not just on something that was of kind of idle importance. We've basically had, because of the green light that the Supreme Court gave the New Deal, nearly a century of progressive governance that would have been unrecognizable to the framers. So I think this is all theater, but I wouldn't dismiss it because it's theater with a purpose. They think they can intimidate the Supreme Court into the way they choose which cases to decide, and in the way they decide the cases that are before them, whether they unexpectedly give the left wins that you wouldn't figure they'd get, or in cases where conservatives win, the decisions become so narrow that they're of little precedential use. So there's a lot of mischief here.
You know, you talk about intimidation, Andy, and I find it kind of, ironic, the whole idea. These progressive groups are now calling for Stephen Breyer, who's a liberal, to resign because he's against packing the court. I want to play this quick soundbite from Ruth Bader Ginsburg a few years back, what she said about packing the court. Watch.
9 seems to be a good number, and it's been that way for a long time. I think that was a bad idea when President Franklin Delano Roosevelt tried to pack the court.
If she were still around today, Andy, an icon of the left, do you think anybody would have called for her to resign because of her opinions?
Well, the left is the left is kind of unpredictable now. I'll say this much, Trace. I think, Ginsburg was very smart. Breyer is smart, and I think they understand and understood that the court's viability in the role that it has in our system, which is a kind of an apolitical, insulated from politics pushback against the political branches, that's dependent on its being legitimate as a judicial institution. And if you start playing around like the Democrats are now talking about doing in order to achieve progressive results, it just becomes a hyper legislature. It's no longer a judicial institution, and it loses its important position in our framework.
And is being proposed by the House Judiciary Committee chairman. I mean, I think that's what's remarkable. Karl Rove, you have a column in the Wall Street Journal today. Everyone should check it out. It's why Biden won't build bridges to the GOP. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot to come on that topic. And I'm curious, I'm going to call you later and find out what you think the Chief of Staff, Ron Klain, is thinking about all this. I want your thoughts. Thank you, Karl. Thank you, Andy.